we are really grateful to you for being a part of this and joining us so early in the morning on Sunday. So I think we should just dive in. I think people will just keep joining us since it's pretty early, and at least for LA time. I don't know. Some people it's like, 2 o'clock in the morning. So Evelin, why don't you just jump in first by just saying a little bit about who you are, where you come from, how you got to where you are, and where you are right now. So like about Ignition, and we just want to hear all about you.
Yeah, totally. So I'm Evelyn. I am a music supervisor at a trailer house called Ignition Creative. We work on a ton of really cool movie trailers and a ton of stuff for Netflix and Amazon. We did Mission Impossible, Bohemian Rhapsody, lots of cool projects like that. Right now, we're working on more Bohemian Rhapsody. We do a lot of stuff with Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. So yeah, it's a little bit about what I do.
And how did you get started in the music supervision world? I mean, that's like you're at the forefront of so many big projects. So how did you get there?
Yeah, I actually used to work at a production library called Extreme Music, and
Oh, yeah.
I was one of their reps, and I also helped produce a whole bunch of tracks for them, specifically for
Produce like music produce?
hmm yeah,
Oh,
so I work a lot with like all of those composers that we had at Bleeding Fingers, and we did a lot of custom score for a whole bunch of different TV shows like Shark Tank and Beyond the Tank. And then I worked with a lot of our orchestral composers to, work on trailer stuff. So I started off there. I worked there for 3 years, and then I just kind of realized that I wanted to do more creative work, and I didn't want to be limited to just a certain amount of songs when pitching. And I made the jump to another trailer house called Mob Scene about a year ago and some
oh
change.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I worked there for a year under Todrick Spalding. And
Yeah, big deal.
yeah, I worked on Fantastic Beasts, Aquaman. What else did I work on? Dark Phoenix. Lots of really cool movies. The new Quincy documentary on Netflix. We did the trailer for that. So I did that for a year, and then I made the jump over to Ignition Creative.
Wow. That's like really big leaps and also amazing opportunities that you were working in. So your background is music. You were already a composer and a musician then coming
Um,
into this?
Actually went to school for audio engineering, so I
Okay.
like more of the technical part of it.
Got it.
I don't know how to like physically write music, but I'm really good at giving notes. A lot of what my job is we do a lot of custom tracks. So I have like a list of composers that I go to,
Got it.
and we give them notes, and I basically help produce a track as opposed to writing the actual music.
Perfect. That makes sense. So there's lots of different definitions of producer, and that makes sense that on that side you're helping put all the pieces together and create what is needed. So by that, okay, interesting. So I think we often talk to people who are supervisors to television shows or films or advertising agencies, and I think trailers are completely their own thing. They have their own flow. They're not the same songs that are in the films. Can you tell us like a little bit about how songs work in trailers? So how long do you have to build those trailers and the songs that are in there?
So that kind of depends on our deadline and what we're working on and where we are in the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're brought on really, really, really early on, like when it's just a script before they've even started shooting.
Yeah.
Um, but our deadlines, it's a little confusing because sometimes we'll be working on a project for over a year, but within that year, we've probably done 100+ revisions on a trailer.
Wow.
Yeah, so we start off with a V1, and then we just keep on getting notes and notes unless they really like it right off the bat. But there goes a lot into it. There's testing that we basically show. The studio will show our trailer to certain audiences and
Oh, wow.
tests. Like they'll ask us to adjust things and address certain issues and all of that stuff. Sometimes it's just something like the executive director doesn't really like an ending or a graphic or something very, very simple. But our deadlines for trailers, even though we're on it for a year and some change sometimes, we usually have about like 3 or 4 days to turn a trailer around. This weekend
Wow.
specifically, got notes. We're working on a new movie for Fox, and it's like this really cool, like feminine superhero movie. And they asked us to start cutting Friday night, and we have to deliver something Monday morning. So this,
Wow.
yeah. So like yesterday, I was actually on the phone with our in-house composer, helping write a new piece of music for the beginning, and then some overlays for the back end song, and like sitting with our editor and helping put that together. So sometimes we have up to a week, and sometimes we have like a day or two.
Like no time at
Yeah.
all. That's incredible. Yeah. So you're here with us today and you are like under the gun for a next film. So
Yes.
thank you so much for being here. That's so exciting because I think one of the biggest things that we've seen is that the songs that go into movies are not the songs that they use in the trailers.
Yeah.
So how does that, do you guys talk with the movie people or is it just its own beast altogether?
Completely different department. So like there is the film production team that's over here, and then there's a marketing team that's over here. And the studio has a production team for the film, and they deal with the director and the director's vision, and the film has its own music supervisor as well as its own editing team. They're a whole separate entity. And
Right.
then they have a marketing department, and there's marketing heads and marketing executives, and they actually don't communicate at all. So what the marketing executive's job is to make sure that we sell the film and we get everybody to go to the theaters and watch it. So oftentimes what's really cool about working in trailers is we do get the film as it's being worked on. So like all of the movie magic is lost. Like we don't see the cool special effects or anything.
Uh-huh.
Break down the film and find the best parts of the film that we can put in this 2.5 minute trailer to tell you guys a story to convince you to go watch the film. And then we present to the marketing executive, and like they handle all of the marketing. There's a whole separate budget. Budgets for trailers are really, really nice and healthy. Usually we don't have a budget until the very end of the campaign. For the
Oh,
most,
interesting.
yeah, for the most part, they tell us we can pitch and use whatever we want. We don't have to worry about any restrictions or anything like that. Um, so yeah, it's a whole separate team that does the marketing and that does,
Yeah.
so
And
the,
that the budget is different too. So it's not like
yeah,
you're pulling from the movie budget
yep.
for the budget of the trailers. That's so interesting.
Yeah, so the music supervisor for the film is basically working with the director and the executive producer of the film and making sure that vision becomes a reality. We actually don't, we'll sometimes get the score. If it's
Yeah.
orchestral, we can maybe work with it, but we don't actually see the soundtrack or see any of the music that's used within the actual film. We're
Wow.
from something completely
Completely different.
differently. Yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, what kind of songs, I mean, do you feel like work the best for trailers? And I guess that's a really big question. So like there's thrillers and there's comedies and there's action. Like how would you break that down if you were like,
Um, Honestly, it depends on the actual film that we're working on. What a
mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know is that each trailer house is usually known for doing something or like really
Oh,
thing. So like when I was at Mob Scene, we were known for like dark heroic films. At Ignition, we do a lot of like action-packed films. Um, and you know, trailer houses like Trailer Park are really like well known for their animated films, so is Create and stuff like that. So those are the types of films that each trailer house will usually get. We also compete against each other for different trailers. So it's usually not just one trailer house working on one film. It's
oh,
like 3 to 4, and they present to the marketing executive, and then it's just kind of like that
oh,
compete
I didn't
against.
realize that.
Yeah.
So do
Uh,
you like cut something and put it to music and then they're like, oh, we like what they did? You go all the way down that road? Or is it just that
yeah,
you're,
yeah, no,
oh,
we had a full spot. Basically, the way it works is they'll give us a direction. Like they'll say, like Ignition, we want you to do like a really emotional spot. Trailer Park, we want you to do a really like happy-go-lucky spot, and Mob Scene, we want you to do like a really dark, creepy spot.
oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, like different storylines, and then they basically test it out. They see who has the better spot. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, we really like the open from Ignition. Can Ignition give the opening to Mob Scene, and Mob Scene, you'll work with that. Sometimes they'll say something like, we like the song from this studio, you guys are now cutting with this song, or we like the graphics from this like shop. So it just kind of depends. Sonically, again, it just also super depends on the trailer that we're working on.
Hmm.
Sometimes it needs just orchestral music, like when we were working on Fantastic Beasts, we're not using any actual commercial songs or anything with lyrics. It's just straight orchestral. But obviously with Bohemian Rhapsody, like we're using nothing but Queen. When I worked on 12 Strong, we did a cover of Tom Petty that worked really well. So it just honestly depends on the spot and the direction that we're going in. Like right now we're working on, what is it? On Holmes and Watson. So like that
cool.
spot. Yeah. And like we're using a whole bunch of like old school hip hop to just play against the visuals of like kind of two idiotic best friends. So it just sort of, it honestly just depends on like what we're working on. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, it's something completely different. Whereas like when you're working on a film, you know the sound of the film and you know where you want it to go. And with a TV show as well, you kind of know where it's going and what you want from it and what you want people to feel. But with a trailer, again, it just kind of depends on the film that we're working on that day, because we usually have like 6 or 7 movies going on at the same time. And then also the direction that our producer wants us to take, like whether it's emotional, happy, the genre of the film, if it's a comedy, if it's a horror film, and stuff like that. But usually always custom done to whatever it is that we're working on, whether it's an orchestral cue or a commercial cue, there's always going to be some sort of
custom in there. And then if you're like, so, you know, this is an audience of songwriters interested in sync and figuring out how to get their music placed. So what would be some elements to keep in mind if they want to have songs and trailers? Like, are there certain markers that they could include in their songs that work better?
We always, I know that like in TV, everything needs to sit under dialogue. We don't need anything to sit under dialogue. So like bigger, the better is usually what we're looking for. And that's usually what our customs and our overlays do.
Wow, cool.
Those don't ever get big enough. So we want it to be super big and bombastic. Like even if it's like a thriller or something comedic, like we want it to get really big and we want people to get either excited or scared or feel something.
Yeah.
So the bigger that the song sounds, the better. We also tell a story in 3 acts. The first act is the beginning of the trailer where we start introducing the story. The middle act is usually when the character or whatever the film is about, like really starts getting into a problem, whether it's good or bad. The story starts revealing itself. And then the back end is really what we want to sell and convince you guys to go watch a movie with. So that's where like the music gets really loud and crazy and fun. And that's the biggest selling point for us. So we need a track that's usually very dynamic, that can tell a story within 2.5 minutes, that has ups, downs, that has stop downs so that our editors can cut down to that. We can throw in a joke every now and then, or even if it's like a horror film, that we can add a moment of suspense. So we just really look for stuff that can tell a story and that's big and full and dynamic and that has peaks and valleys and hills and gets really big and stuff like that, because it makes it easier for our editor to come with.
Oops, somebody started calling me. Sorry, that was so strange. Yeah, that's so interesting. Somebody, Kaylee just said, oh, you know, had no idea that's how trailers are chosen. Like, it's such an interesting world that you live in that is just really not available to, you know, the information is not available to us just like on the outside. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And breaking it down.
About 10 trailer houses. So there's really maybe like 15 or 20 trailer music supervisors. There aren't very many of us.
Yeah.
And it's also just really hard sometimes to talk about what we need or what we're working on. Projects that we work on haven't been announced, or we're under so many NDAs. And even when you go to a trailer house, like you have to sign an NDA to walk in. You like basically sign your soul away saying that you're never going to talk about anything that you saw or anything that you worked on.
Yeah.
Even out like custom requests to our composers, we don't always necessarily tell them what it is that we're working on. We also don't give them visuals that they can see and create music from. So yeah, there's like this huge confidentiality agreement at the end of every single one of our emails.
I'm
like,
sure, yeah.
Talking about that kind of stuff. So it is, a lot of people don't know how trailers work, and a lot of it is like, there are studios like Warner Brothers where Warner Brothers won't allow a trailer house or anybody that worked on a trailer to post about it or say like, we did this, just because they believe in movie magic and they want it to be like this whole magical experience for the audience and everybody watching it. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. We don't want to like break that wall of movie magic. So it makes sense that it's harder to understand how these pieces all work together. But it's so informative. So somebody with music kind of knows, you know, where their music might be useful and where it's not useful. And I think that's one of the biggest things is people just send music out and they're like, why am I not hearing back? Because they don't know what, you know, what might work and what doesn't work. Do you see some trends, like musical trends that you feel are kind of current right now, or that?
And I think before with trailers, it was kind of like the thing that was really, really popular were like dark haunting covers. Like any sort of cover was like really, really popular. It was, and I think covers are still going to be a very big thing. I think it's just no longer a haunting cover. Like there's no more, before it was just like female vocals with like a really cool piano undertone. But now we're definitely looking at covers for any type of song, but just anything that reimagines it, anything that makes something fun and cool. And I think right now too, especially since like Inception came out, a lot of things, since those ROMs became really popular, a lot of things that we get told now, instead of it's, oh, can you find the song to sell this trailer, or can you find the song for this specific spot, it's, can you find the sound of the campaign? So it's no longer just a specific song that we're working for or looking for, it's the sound of the entire campaign, what's going to sell this movie across 3 trailers, all of the TV spots, and all of the now digital and social media spots. So another thing to think about too is, how can your song, one, fit in a 2.5-minute trailer to tell a story, but then also be cut down into a 15-second Instagram spot.
Right. So interesting.
Social media now is making things also a little bit difficult, where like a song could fit a trailer, but if it doesn't fit that cut down, then we have to replace it with something else.
Oh, wow. There's so much to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So much knowledge. Thank you so much. Paul says, what percentage of time are you using music by an artist versus producing custom music?
Well, I would say 100% of the time we're producing custom music.
Okay.
That's because even if we are using AQ by the artist, we're still making overlays or something.
Like underneath that. Okay. Yeah. So that's really interesting.
So any trailer that you have ever seen, I assure you, there is something that we've done to tweak a song. Whether it's a commercial song or an orchestral song, we have added overlays. We've asked the composer to adjust their song and rewrite it. We've used stems. Like 100% of the time there is custom involved. As for pitching, it's probably like 50-50.
Okay, that's so interesting. The overlays, like when we've pitched songs before and then you see them later, like what they've done with it, it's like, you know, add these huge drums to the bottom, or like something that's like just
really different. Yeah,
you're like, wait, was that in the song? Yeah, it's really, you guys make magic happen. Even though you're telling us this, there's still so much that is just like in the background. And Bev says that her brother works for is a film producer, and that he doesn't even tell his own family the things that you're sharing. So thank you so much for letting us in. Bev says, I was going to ask how important stems are. I guess they're pretty essential.
Yeah, stems are super important. We always if we like a song and we see that it's going anywhere, the first thing we do is ask for stems. And another thing that isn't really known about trailers is like with film and TV, there's the video editor, there's a graphics editor, there's a music editor, there's an audio editor that does like dialogue and stuff. With trailers, our editor that is working on that spot does everything from beginning to end. Yeah, like he or she will break down the video, will edit the video, the dialogue, the music, everything. So we get the stems to the editor who is working on whatever project. Like my trailer shop has 20 editors.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're all working on separate trailers.
Really busy. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get them the stems, they break it down, they'll try and beef up the track as best as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's like doubling up on drums or guitars or whatever it is. And then if that still isn't enough, then, which is usually the case, that's when we'll bring in, we have an in-house composer, which we're very lucky to have. And we'll have him sit down and just kind of watch everything. And if he's too busy, then we have like 4 or 5 other composers that we really
You call
trust.
out, yeah.
And that we'll call and like, we'll send the song to and just be like, this is how it's cut. We don't tell them what movie it is or anything. Like, they just get the song, how the editor has cut it into the piece.
Mm.
We give them notes and we're just like, we need bigger drums here, we need like sound design here, if you could add something to the beginning or to the end, and then just kind of go from there.
Wow. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many facets to it, to creating that movie magic when you watch a trailer that inspires you to watch the movie in these few little minutes. How do you guys find your music? Like the original music from artists, like artist music songs?
That's a really good question. I probably get like 40 or 50 emails a day, if not
I'm
more.
sure. Yeah.
Whether it's a label, a publisher, a library, on top of those 3 that like film and TV and commercial people deal with, we also have trailer music libraries that are exclusive for trailer music. So then they send us stuff as well. Sometimes they'll send us like covers, or they'll have artists that they found, and they're just like, these people are really, really cool. Like, here's this artist, here's this actual original song versus like trailer music.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of it comes from that. A lot of it comes from just me doing research and listening to music, whether it's going on Spotify or SoundCloud or just different music blogs and different music magazines. And then a lot of it too is just building relationships with either different artists or their label or library or whoever reps them. Because the thing with trailers is in TV and films, if a song is used in a movie or in a TV show or even in a commercial, it can be used again and again. It can be used in another TV show or in another film, and nobody really cares.
Mm-hmm.
But with a trailer, because they want a song to be associated with that campaign,
Mm-hmm.
if it's used in a campaign, we can't ever touch it again.
Oh,
So,
that makes sense.
so once a trailer, like a song gets touched, that gets placed in a trailer, we basically have to wait like 5 or 6 years. And at that point, usually the song has like sounds dated and we have no need for it anymore.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is I want to have the best relationships with people who are sending me music so that I have something first and foremost before anybody else, so I can, place it in a trailer and hopefully get that finish.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we do stuff. Like that's where I source my music from. A lot of it is, like I said, relationships with different labels and publishers and libraries and artists. And then sometimes it's just scouring the internet and finding something that I like and doing a lot of research and finding out how I could get that song.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting, what you said about having the songs be something that isn't repeated. So sometimes we talk about, should we release the song? Should we not release the song? Like, can you use it here and use it there? And I think a lot of times, like you said, you can use it in different places and it's okay. Like you can have it in this ad and then you can have it in another ad that's non-competing. But with trailers, it's really, that makes sense too, because it's such a statement. It's like an emotional experience. You can't have that same thing with another. It makes sense that you'd be like cheating on the trailer.
Yeah. And also in regards to like the financial aspect of that, we don't license anything in-house. We don't clear anything. My job is just solely be a creative.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah. So I truly, like, I have the job where I listen to music all day.
Wow.
I don't worry about licensing or the budgets or any of that stuff. The way that it's handled is we work on a trailer, we wrap it up in a nice little package, we give it to the studio, and then the studio has a music marketing department that's different than their marketing or their music department for in show or in film.
Got it.
So the music marketing department will reach out to you guys, the publisher and whoever owns the master, and clear the music that way.
Wow.
But in regards to that, because they do know that usually like this song is going to have one life, and it's for this entire campaign. And then also because it's for theatrical use and it's used in theaters and worldwide and for different versions and cut downs and all of that stuff, the budgets for trailers are very, 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 very healthy. So on the cheaper side, something could get maybe licensed for like $50,000, but it can go upwards into like the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, I worked on Tomb Raider and we did a cover of Survivor. And the master for that got like a lot of money, like a sickening amount of money, because it's Destiny's Child and Beyonce.
Yeah.
And negotiating for that. And then like the publisher, because it was a cover, obviously didn't get as much money, but they also got a very good, like a healthy amount of money for that stuff. So in that sense, like, yes, the song may never be used again for another trailer, but you do get compensated very well for it.
That makes a lot of sense. That's exciting. You know, we talk about the budgets and ads and how those are really healthy, but like a trailer, I guess it's just a little harder to see what works for a trailer. Like what you have just needs to align with what you need, or what, what an artist has to, but it, it has to be like really great quality and have different builds in it, and you never know, but it's great to know that they could hit like that. With a couple questions came in here. Do the covers normally stick to the melody, or do you delve into derivatives of the melodies?
It depends. It depends on what we're working on and what works for the spot. Sometimes it's one or the other. Sometimes it's both throughout the entire
game. Okay, so yes, that's another, how close to the original does a cover have to be? And if you accept a song, does that mean,
there we go. Sorry, guys.
If you accept a song, does that mean it's an exclusive deal? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but maybe like what's the deal around a song for a trailer?
So in regards to how close to the original the cover has to be, it depends on the trailer. Sometimes we want it to sound pretty close in the same vein, but a little bit more modern. Sometimes we want it to sound completely different. It just depends on what we're working on and what works with our visuals. So a lot of my job is to make sure that the visuals match the song, and then that they also they tell you what to feel. So when you're watching a TV show or a movie, like the song has to kind of hit you over the head and tell you like, this is going to be sad, this is going to be happy. With me, I kind of have to like sneak it in there because I don't want the audience to be told how to feel, but I want to basically manipulate their feelings and be like, this is how you're going to feel and this is what's going to make you watch this movie. There's a lot of like psychological aspects to that. And then in regards to exclusivity, it depends on the trailer and the film director. So there are some directors that have a lot of say in their marketing campaign. When we were working on, what was it? Star Trek, there is a Two Steps from Hell song, and the director really, really, really loved the song. And he was like, I absolutely don't ever want anybody to use this, even if it's in 5 or 6 or 10 years. And he was actually really smart. And he said he wanted that song exclusively for that film. And he actually bought the song, like the marketing department bought the song out from the library, from the composers, from the artist, and paid an insane amount of money for it. But it was actually a song that I did while I was at Extreme. And to this day, like they still get asked for that song all the time.
Wow.
Oh, like, can we have the stems for this, or can we do this? And their answer is like, sorry, Paramount owns it now. And per the director, like nobody can ever use that song again. So there's instances like that. But for the most part, the studios won't license for exclusivity. Like the song can definitely still be used elsewhere. It just probably like a music supervisor at a trailer house, or even a producer or creative director, our job is to be aware of what music is being used in every single campaign. So if we hear something used in a campaign, we probably won't touch it for a very long time. But that doesn't go to say like people in TV or film or even, commercials won't touch that song.
Right.
It can still be used. There's no exclusivity to it. Just in the land of trailers, like for a while.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. The land of trailers is very different. It's really
Yeah.
exciting. Like your job is such an exciting job because you're not worrying about clearance. You're not,
Yeah.
you're just like, how can I create an emotional experience like the very best way? And that's really exciting. It's not like trying to fit it into this with also $500 or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is like sometimes we get those emails, and that's really hard for a music supervisor to live
Oh,
in
yeah,
that world.
totally. And like I do some freelance work for ad agencies. I work with like Deutsch and 72 and Sunny a lot.
Oh, cool.
And it's interesting having to like kind of swap that mentality from
Mm,
being in trailers where like I don't have to worry about anything, just
yeah.
making sure that it fits. Because like if something fits, regardless of how expensive it is, the studio will find a way to pay for it. Like they'll figure something out and make
Hmm.
sure that it gets in there if it's going to sell their movie. Because paying a couple $100,000 in the grand scheme of things into how much money they're going to be making off of this film, like will
Hmm.
work out. But with commercial work, it's totally different. Like sometimes they're like, this is a regional spot and we only have $250, but we need a real artist. And sometimes they have up to $125,000, which is nice, but like it's interesting having to restrict yourself to those budgets and making sure that you're finding songs that work within that price range
Yeah.
for the spot.
Right, right. That's interesting that you have to like flip flop
Mhm.
mentalities for that. But it's good because then you can tell us about both sides. So that's great. We get to the inside scoop. What other questions do we have before we hop into songs? Because I want to leave enough time to get into those as well. My other question would be artists. So people here, if they are looking, what are some ways you would probably recommend to them to get their songs to people like you, or to have the right songs, whether just to, if they're interested in having songs in trailers, what are some of the things that you might recommend to an artist?
I think a lot of it is like definitely do your research.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can't tell you what we're working on. Like I
Right.
have like 6 or 7 films right now that I can't be like, I'm working on this and then it'll give you guys ideas. But what you can do, what I definitely recommend to all artists and like labels and stuff is like do your research. You can go to IMDb or you can go to a studio's website and you can see their lineup for like the next 4 or 5 years. Like you can see
Wow.
what Warner Brothers is going to be working on, what their releases are, what Disney is working on, and all of that stuff. And you can write songs that you think would probably fit that film. You can, like obviously Fantastic Beasts, there's going to be 7 of those films.
Mm-hmm.
So you can figure out what the film is about. You can go to IMDb, do research, read the plot, like, and figure that kind of stuff out, especially for the superhero movies. It's a little bit easier because you're just like, oh, I know what Spider-Man is about.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
out. And you guys can write to that and then pitch that way. And then also like when you do meet music supervisors from trailer houses, ask them what studios they work with because it'll give you a better understanding as to what their lineup is. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mob Scene exclusively worked with Warner Brothers. Like that was their bread and butter. And then after that was Fox. At Ignition, our main client is Fox and Sony and Netflix and Amazon. And then shops like Wildcard, they work exclusively with 20th Century Fox. So you can kind of put the pieces together without us having to tell you, like, we're
That's
working
amazing.
this. And you guys can write according to that and then send it off to the, designated supervisor and stuff. I think it's also really beneficial, like, to do things like this, like talk to a supervisor or go to panels or networking events where you do get to meet a music supervisor and
Mm-hmm.
like just really talk to them. Because another thing that does happen is like even if you send me something, I won't always necessarily respond just because I get so many emails every day, like just alone in new music, and then just on top of that from like my producers, my editors, and like actual work emails that sometimes one things get lost. So it's always good to send like a backup email if you really think something is really good or if you haven't heard a response. But then
Mm.
like if a supervisor knows that your music is really good and they trust that you're going to deliver something really good, we'll always open the email and we'll always listen to it. Another thing is like also be really, really patient. We, again, like I said, sometimes our deadlines are really fast to turn something in, but we'll be working on something for a year that won't see the light of day for like a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll get the quote request like right before the trailer is about to come out. And then you'll see the trailer and you're like, oh, that's my song. And then obviously, you know, it got confirmed and everything is great. But I've had songs that I've been sitting on for like 2 or 3 years that I know still haven't been placed that are really, really good that I know like one day are going to fit something.
Yeah.
So there's also that, just like, even if you think that you're working on something and you're like, this is so good, like, why hasn't it been used? It very well might be in something, you just don't know. And like, we might be cutting with it and it might be in there. You just won't know until you get that quote request, because we also can't
It's
really
crazy for like, you know,
discuss.
a year from now.
Yeah, like we can't really discuss what's being used. Like, it's always a good sign if we ask for stems or an instrumental or stuff like that, then like you obviously know that something is being used, but you probably won't know when that trailer is going to be released or how long we've been working on it or
Yeah.
longer we have on that film.
Trailers are such a magical world. It's really cool. It's like, just in comparison, like for a television show or an ad, you have to get approval that you can clear it for a certain amount of money, or like, we're even thinking about using this. Can you clear it? Like, does the artist approve? You guys can kind of like move forward because you know that like we'll figure it out. Like, it'll all make sense. So that's pretty awesome. Let's see. One more question from Robin. Is there a typical process in terms of picture before music choice, music first, then picture?
It depends on the producer, actually. So some producers conceptualize an idea, and they start cutting with picture first. They have our editors cut with picture first. And then some producers basically conceptualize an idea and they're just like, we really need this trailer to feel like this. You need to find a song, and then we'll find a song and the editor will cut picture to that song and make sure that the picture matches the song versus the song matching the picture.
That's so interesting. I mean, oh, there's your kitty cat. See your cat. Yeah, you've really just like given us so much information and food for thought here, and ways, and your information about like how to figure out who's working on what and how they are affiliated with different studios. I can't thank you enough for taking the time. Oh, it's not a cat, it's a dog.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, little doggy. Yeah, taking your time this Sunday morning to help. I mean, I just feel like every morsel of what you shared with us was something really useful and really important. And so I am really excited to have gotten the morning to hang out with you. And I think we should dive into some songs.
Cool. So I should just play them and then go from there?
Yeah, I'm actually going to turn it over to Victoria, who's going to just moderate so that, and we talked about how going through them, you don't need to feel like, just go through them as you would normally go through, because that's, you know, what we want to know is like, does this pull you in or it doesn't do it for you if you were just being sent this sort of thing.
Okay, cool.
And Victoria's here and she's going to go back and forth. And
awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I've been like watching in the background this whole time. All the info you shared has been so good. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So I will start with Home because that's the first one on the list. Let's see. That's weird. Sorry, these are sending me to like a Facebook link.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Let's figure out how to get you the right links. They all sending you there?
Let me resend it to your email, Evelyn. I think probably because I sent it to you through a Facebook message and then you sent it to her from that message.
Yeah, it's sending me to like a Facebook link. So
yeah.
I think maybe that is.
Okay. Let me send it to you really quickly.
Yeah.
Are you working the rest of the weekend? Do you have fun plans for this weekend? Or no, it's all work?
be heading into work after this.
Oh, we're so grateful for you to hang out with us and share this information before you head out to meet your very tight deadline.
Okay, I just sent it over. Let me know if you got it.
Yep, there it is. All right, perfect. This worked.
Cool.
So the first one on the list is home. Sorry, you guys keep on getting lost on my iPad. So do you guys want me to give back notes when I'm listening, or do you just want me to listen through?
However you want to do it. You can just listen through and kind of skip through how you normally would with submissions, and then just let us know your thoughts and any production things that could be changed, or your thoughts on how it could work for trailers, or what would need to be changed if it would work for trailers.
So for home specifically, usually what I do, like when I'm listening to something, is I'll listen to the beginning of it for like 15 or like the first 15, 20 seconds.
Okay.
And then I very end to hear if it gets big enough. So for this one specifically, it doesn't get big enough, but it's because it's like this cute, like kind of acoustic, like very soulful, like emotional song, which is really awesome. I think it would work really well for TV though. Just because of the feel of it, like it would sound really good in something like that. Or something like that.
Yeah, totally. And we talk a lot in the class about making sure to have different sections and builds and dynamics, because that's what gives the editor and you guys enough to work with. And, so we try to stress that a lot.
Cool. So I'm going to listen to Fade to Black next.
Awesome.
Let's see. So this one specifically was like a pretty good trailer song. Cool. It starts off really light. It has a lot of really cool hybrid elements, which is really nice. I didn't notice it got really big at the end, and then it like kind of fades down, and then it gets really big again. So that's really cool, because usually when you guys notice in a trailer, what's really popular right now is the big back end will happen and it'll get really, really, really loud, and then it fades down, and then you see the name of the film pop up, and then like you hear like a last like dun 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 at the end. So this is really cool. This is really awesome. It sounds like a really good like kind of superhero, like a dark heroic thing. It would be really good for something like Marvel or DC. So that's kind of awesome.
Awesome. That was really great. And I like how you broke down kind of the structure of a trailer, because maybe anybody here, looking to write for trailers can keep that in mind. It kind of goes up and then comes down when the title is shown and then needs to go back up again.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's definitely something that has been trendy at the moment.
Cool.
Okay, let me go to the next one. So the next one is No Undo. So for this one, lyrically, it's like really on the nose, which is awesome. Sometimes you're looking for really specific lyrics. My only note for hip hop and trailers specifically, like this doesn't apply for like TV or film or commercials. It's really hard for us to use hip hop just because the beat is always so steady and it's very repetitive. And that's just with like all hip hop in general. It's not just the song specifically. Like hip hop is really, really, really hard to place in trailers. Just again because the beat is so repetitive, and oftentimes we do remove some of the vocals from it and we just kind of use like the main chorus or the main hook, and then once you remove the vocals from it, the song becomes a lot less dynamic because the instrument, like the beats, are just repetitive, and that's just like of hip hop. So that's just like my only note.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
It works really well. Like the thing with hip hop is like it does play really good against film and TV and stuff like that. Like obviously shows like Empire needs stuff like this. It's really good.
And Atlanta, and there's totally a big trend in TV, but trailers.
For trailers, it's just a little bit harder again because like the beat is repetitive, and then when we do remove the vocals, like that's kind of where all the dynamic parts of the song go away from.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah. The next one is These Hands Are Made for You. So this one is a little bit bigger. So this is a little bit cooler. I would probably use this for something like an opening of a trailer just because it's so emotional. It might work for a back end. We'd probably do some like overlays to it and add a bit more instrumentation to make it sound bigger.
Mhm.
But overall, this one is really cool, especially the beginning. Like I said, it would be really good to like start a trailer off because the piano is so melodic and emotional, and it's really cute. I like that one a lot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So then let's see. The next one is Unstoppable. The instrumentation of this one is really interesting, especially in the beginning, like how it's a little like a little kitschy and weird. I actually really like that. That would be really cool, like against like a murder mystery type of thing. I kind of wish that the intro was a little bit longer as opposed to just going straight into that beat because that beat was a little bit repetitive. And then when you got to the end, it did change a little bit, but it was still the same sort of beat. This is like actually really commercial friendly more so than anything. Unstoppable like would be really good in a commercial. But I do wish that intro was a little bit longer because that's a really cool, the way that instrumentation was worked out was really interesting.
Yeah, and it like hooks you in. Like when I heard it too, yeah. It just like really grabs you. But I totally agree. That's awesome. Bev said in the chat, is there any way we can see who wrote these songs? Yes, I'm going to post the links and the names for you guys here. Was that the last one that we had on the list?
Yeah, that was the last one.
All right, thank you so much. I'm sure all of the songwriters who wrote these songs and everyone else found this so informative. I know I did, and all the information you gave today. It's been such a treat to have you here. So I just thank you so much for being here on a Sunday morning.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it, and I hope it was informative and I answered your guys' questions. And
you did 100%. You gave us like a whole new world to look into. I feel like trailers like its own mysterious beast, and I feel like you helped crack that a little bit for us. So thank you so much, and I know you have so much work to do, so we'll let you go. But thank you so much, Evelyn. People in the chat are saying thank you, and have a great weekend.
All right, see you guys later.
All right, bye.